Ryan Miller, Executive Director, Accelerate Mississippi from the Office of Workforce Development. And who do you have with you, sir?
To be honest, Paul, I found this guy loitering in the parking lot, and I thought, he seemed like a good guy. So, this is
always good to help the homeless, man.
This is our Deputy Director for K through 12 Innovation, Dr. Nathan Oakley. He joined us this morning to talk to us.
Dr. Oakley, it's a pleasure having you, sir.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Man, there's a lot of things to talk about here. First of all, Ryan, how you doing, sir?
I'm tired. I'm good, but I'm tired. Look, we're blowing and going, and
Are you?
emerging from a legislative session, ready to get some things done. So, no rest for the weary.
Let's do this. Let's talk about in this segment we have here as far as the legislative session, because you're right. There was a lot of things happening, and there was a lot of things that had to come together, and especially some of the funding to get that thing done. But speak to that at the final moments. It looked like everything gel, and hopefully we are putting the money in the proper pots.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah. No. It was a very I would say hectic season. And look, you're talking to a guy. I'm still a greenhorn, so this is my first legislative session to go through. But suffice it to say, there was a lot of movement and action as it relates to workforce development. We're very excited that the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the Speaker of the House, Senator David Parker and Representative Donnie Bell, we all worked together to get three key pieces of legislation moving that we think can move the needle for workforce in the state of Mississippi.
How is this going to transcend itself into doing what we have to do? I think that's what people want to know. We hear about all of these different projects, all of this and that, but I mean specifically putting money as fuel behind a specific product.
Sure.
How does that manifest itself?
Sure. So let me start with House Bill 1388. This was the Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, his bill, along with author Donnie Bell. This is what we believe could be a transformative piece of legislation, in that it allows for three very important things that we think really do move the needle in the state of Mississippi. First of which is career coaches. These are individuals that are deployed into our high schools throughout the state of Mississippi that can actually help influence students and apprise them of opportunities. I'm going to let Dr. Oakley talk a little bit about the career coach program, since he's so integrally involved in it.
That's very interesting. Dr. Oakley?
Sure. The coaching model that we're looking at, North Mississippi, through the Create Foundation and Toyota Wellspring, they're running a coaching model in the northeast part of the state now. And so we are trying to replicate that, trying to expand it more broadly across the state to really give high school students a better sense of what the opportunities look like in their local communities. I might be in a local high school and not even have an awareness of a manufacturing facility or a defense industry sector partner that's in the community that would offer a well-paying, good job and an opportunity to stay close to home, be in your family. So as we deploy these coaches, they'll be plugging in with the local business and industry that's in place there in their community, along with the local high schools and community colleges, but working directly alongside students and helping parents to understand that there are lots of opportunities here in the state that students can move into the workforce more readily than with a 4-year degree, perhaps.
And that's 3 for the entire North Mississippi area, or how many people are we talking about?
So we're looking at roughly 80 coaches statewide. Based on the appropriation that we've got, we'll have about 80 coaches. They will not be in every school in the state. We do want to we want to work with a coalition of the willing. We want to pull together schools and school districts that are eager and willing to work alongside these coaches. They're going to have an opportunity for the coaches to work with the students, to have access to the students, to spend time with them during the school day, to give students opportunities to go into local business and industry. If there's a school that doesn't want to work alongside a coach and to look closely at the courses being offered and the course selection process, we don't need to deploy a coach into that school.
And Paul, does that wrangle you a little bit though? Because and look, we have to face the real problems out there too. In some of these schools, in some of the areas, it's schools, and I don't want to be redundant on this. Some schools think they're failed a kid if they don't go to college.
Right.
We got to get out of that mindset. I wish I had the audio in here, and I'll have to see if I can find it. Elon Musk we talked about that the other day about going to college. And, man, he hit it on the head. He's talking about, you're wasting your money if that's not what you want to do. Mm-hmm. If you want to be in a career for the rest of your life at something that demands that college-level degree at 4 years, then that's fine. But we've got to stop pushing people one way or the other and start finding out from them That's why these coaches are such a good idea.
Yeah, Paul, and let me just add to that. These individuals, serving in these schools, they really are guidance counselors in a way, but only focused on helping to navigate and create and shepherd a student through a particular path. As we've said before, there's no plan B, right? College is a plan A, but so is community college. So is going directly into work in industry. We've got to start, continue to push the narrative that there's no plan B. I think these career coaches can do that. And look, even I'm a four-year, college grad. I know Dr. Oakley is as well. We're certainly not denigrating that path, but we are saying if you are going to college, let's think through those degree paths that have a direct connection, a galvanized pathway that lead to a promising career right here in the state of Mississippi, and I think those career coaches can help in that.
Yeah, if you're rolling the dice, you're going to get a degree and then figure it out. It doesn't turn out well.
Right, and I think so we want to communicate and educate parents, grandparents, but also these schools that have an interest in partnering with us in this career coach model, making sure they understand there's no plan B. We're going to help shepherd your student into great opportunities.
Guys, it's not much time before the bumper hits here,
sure.
So let me squeeze this in, and this is just an aside before we get back to the meat. President Biden is considering limiting student loan forgiveness to individuals who make below a specific income. He's been tagged on this entire narrative about forgiveness. A lot of people don't understand this is only on the federal loans. If you got through state, he's not talking about this. That's going to create a lot of rankle out there from people, number one. Number two, when he's talking about it, he says, now I'm considering dealing with some debt reduction, said Joe Biden. I'm not considering $50,000 debt reduction, but I am in the process of taking a hard look at whether or not there will be an additional debt forgiveness, and I'll have an answer on that in the next couple of weeks. Now he's talking about, since 2020 campaign, he's been talking about this, but officials said looking at limiting cancellations to those making below $125,000 or $150,000 as an individual, or $250,000 and $300,000 of couples. So they're probably going to move it down to that, lower. So the lower they move it, what we are left with is the worse you've done with your college career, the more reward you will be given.
Right. And
I mean, in other words, if you go to an Ivy League school and you got a $115,000 student loan, and you stay in your parents' basement and you go surfing, maybe get a job at the fast food place every once in a while, you've made $35,000 for that year. Mm-hmm. You get rewarded for that.
Yeah, and this is a tough subject. I got out of law school with approximately $100,000 worth of student loan debt and no discernible job. But my wife and I, now please understand, I had opportunities afforded to me in my life that many people didn't. I recognize that wholeheartedly. But we, over time, paid that debt off because we knew that I knew what I was getting into when I took that. I think the most important thing to say is that what we've got to do is help students identify the correct educational path that leads to a good career where that's not a problem from them. I think we've got to start being more proactive in helping a student understand what opportunities exist and what the pay scale is appropriately to help them make wise decisions as they choose their educational path.
Is there any middle ground on here? Picking the brain of Dr. Oakley here, just and I had to catch you off guard.
I'm glad you're picking his brain.
He's probably going to go back to homeless status in the parking lot. But seriously, is there a middle ground here, somewhere in between where, like, you join the Peace Corps or something, if you find an alternative way of paying for those with some skin involved?
I absolutely think there is. There are a number of programs in the state. I know that as a master's level teacher, a master's degree, I was able to commit to work for a certain number of years to have that degree program paid for. So I think there are certainly opportunities the state can consider.
I think the Biden administration, as well as most Democrats, they look at the word meritocracy in the same form as they look at the word laxative sometimes, but that's another subject. We got more coming up with the guys right after this.
Yeah.
All right, let me get back into the conversation. We got Ryan Miller, who's Executive Director of Accelerate Mississippi from the Office of Workforce Development, and in with him is Deputy Director Dr. Oakley. When we start looking at this kicking up to high gear, and let me ask Dr. Oakley this too, it's got to be a partnership, doesn't it, between all of the private employers out there and the teachers and the administration, the parents, the kids. But let's talk about the employers themselves. What do they need to do?
So it absolutely is a partnership. We are actually deploying an ecosystem model across the state, and one of the first things we've asked our ecosystem members to do is to gather a list, as they know of business and industry in the state that's interested in having work-based learning opportunities, internship experiences for students in their local business. And so we'll be looking. The Department of Education, where I worked for a number of years, is actually deploying a work-based learning curriculum across the state for students in career tech experiences who've been through a 2-year program, who want to get hands-on experience in a career field with a local business to be able to do that and earn credit for it with certain criteria being met. So it is a partnership between the school, the coach, the student, and the local business, and we're trying to align these coaches and the deployment of these student learning experiences into sectors of the state where we know there's a growing demand for individuals to go to work.
Do you think we're doing that at the proper rate right now that we need to? I mean, we got a good start on this one, or where are we?
I do think we have a good start. I think the work that the department has done over the last few years, creating this work-based learning opportunity experience, building it into the federal Perkins plan for accountability on the career tech side, along with the deployment of the coaches, this all lines up nicely. There's a lot of momentum in this area now.
How do you bring in, Ryan, as far as the schools and the parents on this?
Well, I think it has to do with the communication piece. I mean, that we've already begun. We've already developed and continue to develop. Our communication plan. That really it's the same message, just deployed differently. So, my guess is, though I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but probably most 16, 15, 16-year-olds are probably not listening to SuperTalk in the morning. We need to change that. We need to actually get them up and get them going.
Well, we can put some more. Drop this Ryan Miller music. Put some Oyster Cult.
You and I both know they ain't listening to my songs. That's all right. But no, the whole point is we got to deploy messages to these different audiences in ways that it resonates with them. And so mom and dad need to know that there's opportunity in a variety of different career paths that they might not think about. I think SuperTalk had on a representative, Jill Ford, not that long ago to talk about her son's journey. He was going to law school and then decided, no, I'm going to be a plumber instead. She was mortified initially, and now she couldn't be more proud as a mama seeing her son grow and his brother grow their business. So it's the message might be the same, but it's got to be deployed differently. And we've been doing that with some success in the partnerships that we've had with industry and our school districts, and even our ecosystems, as Nathan alluded to. We've really seen some traction, gaining some momentum there.
They won't have to buy malpractice insurance for plumbing, I don't believe.
It's expensive too, let me tell you.
Well, I have a little personal story too. The grandson has decided that he wanted to do something that I never, in dealing with agriculture marketing and study. And I don't think he's ever been on a farm before, and he's over at Mississippi State, but he's got an internship now with a great company out there that he's going to learn a lot, and they'll pay him a little money. Yeah. So at the same time of going to school.
I would applaud him, and certainly I applaud you, too. Look, this is the thing. Families, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, they want their children to be happy, healthy, and self-sufficient. And, I don't know if we can necessarily help with the happy part, but I can tell you that if we shepherd students appropriately, it doesn't matter the degree path or the profession necessarily, as long as we know that there's a need for them in the marketplace. We're actually getting them into the places they need to be. And
the irony, too, of talking about the administration, talking about free college. If you gave me 4 years of free college, and I don't care if I don't have to pay for it, I'm going to take a 4-year party time. What happens to all of those people we need in the workplace now? Through this type of a program that could be very successful in the construction business, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of those people, why wouldn't you just take 4 more years to party?
I'll add my 2 cents and then let Dr. Oakley. I know he's got a perspective on this, but my thought is, and I've heard, I was at the University of Mississippi a couple of weeks ago, listening to the chancellor talk. I think higher ed is starting to understand that the way in which they package education is decidedly, it's changing because of the marketplace. And so, I think the 4-year college experience and going to campus and going to games, I think that's always going to be there. But I think universities and community colleges have recognized that we have to take what we offer and package it in a way where you've got on-ramps and off-ramps over time for people. And they're starting to catch on to that. Nathan, Well, but they've got to change it. One of the last interviews I did with Dr. Glenn Boyce was talking about, he said we need
colleges have got to change. But then again, a couple of weeks ago, we get this memo that the tuition's going up again at all the universities. Something else has got to change beside the tuition.
Sure.
We are starting to see some partnerships between 2-year and 4-year universities where their students can do a 2-year degree and then finish up the last 2 years, maybe in their local community, but with a degree from Mississippi State or Jackson State or Ole Miss. And so I think we're seeing some creative approaches from universities and community colleges across the state to better meet the needs of students and to potentially give them that university feel, perhaps, that they might not otherwise get.
One of the things to victory, guys, is to identify the enemy. And this is not the enemy, but you have to identify the need out there. Do we have a pretty good grasp of the different industries and the numbers and occupations needed?
Well, we do. We work with folks at the SLDS, the State Longitudinal Data System, to ascertain where there are opportunities in what industry sectors. Even as it relates to, let's say, ARPA, which everyone's been discussing here lately. We were allocated funds, given responsibility to deploy funds in 4 areas: healthcare, logistics, supply chain, emerging technologies, and then some specific population sectors we know need some additional wraparound services. We would not have chosen those sectors had it not been for actual data that said, hey, there's opportunity in these 4 sectors. Yep. There are jobs that pay above the state average, and there are clear galvanized paths through our community colleges, 4-year institutions, or even straight out of high school that will get people into these high trajectory paths. We have to base that on statistics and data, and I think we've got a great relationship with them to make sure we're going in the right direction.
How much money goes to that effort? Do you have a total number of money, and when will it be ready to use? Sure.
So as we emerge from the legislative session, ARPA, I think there's $40 million, 8 of which is going to our career coach program that Dr. Oakley had described. The other 32 is then dispersed between those 4 sectors, and we're still working on the percentages there. But healthcare is a juggernaut. It's a huge sector that we know there's a lot of need, not just in nurses and doctors, but med techs, nursing assistants, all the way even into the human resources side of hospitals and clinics. But yeah, the $32 million that we can deploy in those 4 sectors. And we're working on plans to make sure that July 1st, when some of those funds will be available, we're ready to deploy it efficiently, effectively, legally, in a way that makes the people of the state of Mississippi proud and certainly maximizes the opportunity for them.
We were over the airport in Starkville, Golden Triangle, a couple of years ago. Well, I don't know, it was last year, I think it was. And we had that big symposium. All of the people in the industry brought their machinery by, what they did. They all had their different booths, and they invited 8,000 specifically junior high kids, to come in and look at the different careers there. I thought, this is it ought to be done all over the state like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And look, that's a testament to having an area. We work with some of the groups from the Forge group in the Columbus area.
That's what it was, the Forge group.
And they, look, that's an industry sector. Those are companies that recognize, hey, we can't just wait on the state to do this. We got to roll up our sleeves and get in the classrooms, get these kids into our places of business and show them the opportunities. Yeah. So we are excited to get to work with people like that, an industry like that.
Ask your final thoughts when we return in just a moment.
Go ahead.
All right, guys, final thoughts here, because I know there's a lot of things that you wanted to put in. I hope we got most of them in there, but let me go to Dr. Oakley first of all.
Yeah, I would share one other piece on House Bill 1388 that we think is going to move the needle. There's some language in there requiring us as a state to do a return on investment analysis of our career tech programs in K-12 and post-secondary, and the goal there is to look at programs, to look at outcomes, to look at pathways for students. Are they moving into jobs in those fields? Do they have opportunities in those fields? And where can we better align, as a result of that, where can we better align the coursework that we have in high school career tech programs with programs that are offered in the post-secondary world that feed into jobs here in the state?
Yeah, performance-based performance-based outcomes.
That's right.
For the
most
part. How long do you think you'll have that? It'll take to do that analysis.
So we've actually started. We started the conversation in the last seveve weeks. Tennessee did this a number of years ago. It was a multi-year process. So we think this is probably going to be 2 or 3 years in the making before we fully roll this out. But we do believe it's going to yield us benefit really for the long term.
Ryan, how are the community colleges working with you on this?
Oh, I think the community colleges have been tremendous. I think that they are they're very proud of their programs, very committed to their programs, and believe that they are programs that help students get into those career opportunities. And our point in this and trying to assess whether it's their CTE program or a high school CTE program is just to try to help improve and grow those opportunities and galvanize them. We want to see more students from high school that are pursuing a particular CTE subject matter continue on to their local community college that has a similarly situated program.
Well, let's take the example of the guy who wanted to be a lawyer and he's going to be a plumber.
Right.
Didn't want to be a lawyer, wanted to be a plumber. If he feels like him and his brother, as that business grows and he needs a little bit more business background, he can always do that.
Sure. And I think it's starting with the end result in mind. Where are their job opportunities that we know are great, high trajectory careers, and then working backwards to find how their pathways galvanize to get them there. The CTE assessment, it's simply to determine which programs lead to those pathways, which do not, and how do we make improvements in those areas.
MESC, the Mississippi Employment Security Commission, how do you work with those guys?
We work with MDES and the Employment Security on a daily basis. They're partners of ours, and we both. And there was one other piece of legislation that this kind of alludes to, 2723. Senator Parker, who is a great advocate of ours, he passed legislation this year that galvanizes our relationship with MDES, Department of Corrections, Department of Human Services. We have great relationships with those groups already, but the law now says we shall work in coordination with one another. So it's not that we like each other and just want to work together, because we do, but now we have a law that says we have to do it. It just gives us a little bit more oomph behind that.
All right. Final thoughts from you, sir.
Well, we're grateful for the opportunity to come and talk about what we're doing. I think our ecosystem programs, these ecosystem boards have met here initially. The ball has begun to roll. We're starting to get feedback from them on those 8 ecosystems about what's working in their communities, what isn't, what resources they have, and what resources they need to carry out some of the strategy that we've developed. So I'm very excited and very optimistic. We're going to see some great opportunities in the coming months and years to see real fundamental change from pre-K all the way up into adult learning that gets more Mississippians into careers where it'll make a difference in their homes.
And you guys got a more exciting story this fiscal year, the next fiscal year, than this one to tell by the time you add the income tax changes and the teacher pay raises.
Sure. I think what you're going to find is that the environment, what did Reagan said, we've got to create the environment where economic growth can take place in the private sector. But what you've got here is a great example of private, nonprofit, governmental, and educational entities pulling in the same direction, creating that environment where growth can occur, and we're just happy to be a part of it.
Success begets success.
Indeed.
In the words of Joe Biden, it's spending begets taxes, but that's a different story.
That's a different story.
Hey, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you,
According
Paul.
to some of the people on C Spire, they said very informative, great interview, and I agree.